सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। हरिः ओम् श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्. We are in chapter 6 and completed up to second sloka. We'll quickly do the recap of the previous lesson. This chapter is totally dedicated to meditation or dhyanam. It discusses elaborately and also comprehensively about dhyanam, that is meditation. We also discussed the limitations of dhyanam in the previous class. The first limitation one should understand is dhyanam or meditation will not give you moksham. This is the greatest misconception prevailing in the Vedantic circles also. The meditation will give us moksham. They do not approach Vedam, or they do not study Shastram. They do not do Sravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. They want to do simply meditation and get moksham, which is not true according to the Vaidika knowledge. The Vedic scriptures do not prescribe this kind of method. So the first limitation is moksha cannot be achieved by meditation. The second misconception is that the people do think that directly by meditation you get knowledge. That is also not true. You will not get knowledge. Atma Vidya will not get by meditation alone. People think that by meditating on oneself, he gets to know his real self. Not true. If you meditate on physics, you will not get physics knowledge. If you meditate on medicine, you will not become a doctor. So that way, the Atma Vidya also cannot be obtained, cannot be acquired by dhyanam, by meditation. One has to necessarily approach a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru and then seek the knowledge. The third misconception we have to understand is meditation will give rise to siddhis like Vak Suddhi, then some mystic experiences, mystic powers. All these things can be acquired by dhyanam. That is mentioned in the Shastra. But the ultimate objective, ultimate aim, ultimate target is not acquiring the siddhis. Siddhis are byproducts. We should not care for these siddhis. They are actually the obstacles, the stumbling blocks for Vedantam. To acquire the knowledge, they come in your way and divert you to the mundane world. People misuse these mystic powers, mystic experiences, and will not grow spiritually once they experience these mystic powers. They think that is the ultimate. So this is another misconception. Then meditation is for what? You may question. Meditation here in this particular chapter is described as two kinds. One is meditation before acquiring the Atma Vidya, before knowing one's own real self. That is meditation number 1, which is termed as upasanam. So this upasanam one has to perform to purify one's own mind and get qualified for the knowledge, to acquire the knowledge. So the meditation one, which is upasana, is purely for purification of the mind. Meditation 2, which is called nididhyasanam. The nididhyasanam is mentioned as the atmanishta, staying in the teaching, living in the reality. That is the main thing. So once you understand the Atma Vidya and stay in that reality, so you can really understand and assimilate the knowledge and then own up that reality and stay in that nishta. That is called nididhyasanam, which is meditation number 2, contemplation, otherwise called. This kind of contemplation is very important because the contemplation will give you Jivan Mukti. Getting the knowledge is one thing. Staying in that Atmanishta is the pinnacle. That is the ultimate thing. That is where you start yielding the result of Atma Vidya. You start getting that enjoyment, anandam, once you live in that reality. So that is called contemplation or nididhyasanam or meditation number 2. So both are prescribed in this. The entire topic can be divided. The entire 6th chapter can be divided into 5 different components. The first one is called Bahiranga Sadhanani. Bahiranga Sadhanani. In this, Paramatma has given the karma yogam coupled with upasanam for purification of the mind, for broadening the mind, for one-pointed concentration. This is simply called karma yogam. When we have to do this karma yogam we have to do day in and day out. All through our transactions, we have to perform karma yoga. So this is called Bahiranga Sadhanani or Samanya Sadhanani, general discipline. The first aspect of chapter 6. So, doing this karma yogam, one can get qualified, one can become qualified to acquire the Atma Vidya. Jnana Yogyata one will acquire by doing this Bahiranga Sadhanani. So this is the advantage of the first discipline or first topic. The second topic is called Vishesha Sadhanani. Vishesha Sadhanani are the disciplines which are to be performed, which are to be practiced just before the dhyanam or at the time of meditation. How to sit, where to sit, what should be your ambience, and what is the posture, what is your asanam. All these things are prescribed, and the way of meditation, all the procedure, the dhyana paddhati, the dhyana, before dhyanam, what are the precautions to be taken, all these things are described in Vishesha Sadhanani. This is meditation oriented disciplines which are to be practiced before meditation. Necessarily, you have to practice this before meditation. So, this is Vishesha Sadhanani. And the next topic after this is called Dhyana Swarupam. What is the nature of Dhyanam? How to do the meditation? As you know, there are umpteen methods of meditation. As many people are there, as many meditations are there available now in today's context. Whereas the Vedic meditation, that is Upasana, meditation number 1, is Saguna Ishvara Upasanam. Saguna Ishvara Upasana means you have to meditate on the Lord mentally. You have to do a puja, or you have to chant mentally, or you have to understand his Swarupa mentally. So this is more a mental exercise than a physical exercise. But the target is Saguna Ishvara, not Nirguna Ishvara. So, Ratnai Kalpitam Asanam Himajalai Snanam Cha Divyambaram. Like that, we have so many slokas which will help you to do this kind of meditation, which will help you to do Saguna Ishvara Upasanam. So, doing Saguna Ishvara Upasanam, you can perform meditation 1. Meditation 2 is Nididhyasanam, which is contemplation, which will help you to stay in the Nishtha. So the 4th topic in this is Dhyana Prayojanani. What are the advantages of Dhyanam? By doing meditation, what do you get? Without any advantage, even a fool will not take up a task. A fool will not undertake an action. Prayojana manudhisya mandopina pravartate. So without prayojanam, nobody will ever take up an action. So what is the advantage of dhyana? Meditation 1, the advantage is preparation. You get prepared for jnanam. You are totally qualified. You become sadhana chatushtaya sampanna for meditation 2. That is for nididhyasana. Then in meditation 2, what is the advantage? You may question. In meditation 2, the advantage is you get Jivan Mukti. Once you start living in that reality, once you start linking yourself with your Swarupam, at the back of your mind, while you are doing your action also, while you are doing your transactions, 24/7, you are with Atmanishta. So, if that be the case, if that is the state of the sadhaka, then he is entitled for Jivan Mukti. He gets Anandam here and now. That is the inner freedom, otherwise called Moksham, Moksha here and now. So that is guaranteed in Advaita Vedanta. You can also check it. And many people do tell us that they are getting Ananda. So this is the Jivan Mukti. And you get that shield, a shield to your mind, so that your mind is not disturbed by the local problems. It may get a slight deviation, but it will again recoil and comes back to the normalcy within no time. Like a Vedantin, he was a businessman. Somebody told him that all the stock that he is going to export is in the ship, and that ship sank in the ocean, and all his material is drowned into the ocean. Then he was so upset, and he said, "What?" Then immediately his shield, the Vedantic shield, helped him and made him to come back to the normalcy. And immediately he says, "So what?" So that is the advantage. In that situation, one may get a heart attack, and he may collapse also. Because of the protection by the Vedanta, he could survive. So that is the greatest advantage of Nididhyasanam. The local disturbances will not affect him because he is totally shielded by the Atma Vidya. Then the fifth and the final topic is Dhyana Pratibandhas Pariharau. That is, the obstacles to Dhyanam and their remedies. What are the various obstacles? Like, you fall asleep, you fall into slumber, a deep sleep while doing meditation, or your mind gets distracted. So this way, there are so many obstacles, or your surroundings are not favorable for your meditation. Your neighborhood people, they play music in a blaring voice. So there are so many dhyana pratibandhakas, so many obstacles in your way. You have to overcome all these obstacles. That is the remedy. So both are discussed as the topic number 5. So this is about the dhyanam. With this we have started the sloka number 1, which says, Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Anasrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sasanyasi cha yogi cha na niragnirna cha kriyaha. So, sloka number 1 to 4, Paramatma explains Bahiranga Sadhanani, otherwise called Karma Yogam. So, while explaining the Karma Yogam, he is praising the Gruhastu in comparison with a sannyasi and a meditator. So, Paramatma says, Anasrita karma phalam. Anasrita karma phalam means not resorting, not leaning totally on the karma phala. Not leaning totally on the karma phala means one who is not obsessed with the karma phala. We will all be doing actions. We are all taking up various actions with some expectation. So if the expectation do not yield the result in our favor, we will be totally upset. Whereas a karma yogi is anasrita karma phalam. He is not totally leaning on the karma phala because he knows pretty well that karma phala is Ishvara prasadam. So Ishvara gives the karma phala according to the karmas. According to the karmas, he gives the karma phala. So the karma phala data is Ishvara, and Ishvara is also choiceless. He is not biased. He is helpless because whatever is the karma phala ready for us to experience, he gives it to us. So that is the karma phalam. So karyam karma karoti yaha. Whoever does the action without having obsession for the karma phala, such a gruhastu is the real sannyasi and the real meditator, not the one who has given up the Agnikaryam. Agnikaryam means one who has given up the Yajna Yagams. Sannyasi, he renounces all the yajnas and yagas, all kind of rituals he lives. The gruhastu is much superior to a meditator also. Gruhastu is superior to sannyasi, gruhastu is superior to a meditator. This is the notion of Paramatma. But what actually Paramatma wants to say, according to this, is explained in sloka number 2. Yam sanyasamiti prahuho yogam tam vidhi pandava nahya sanyasya sankalpa yogi bhavati kaschana. Paramatma says, nobody bhavati yogi becomes a karma yogi. Asanyasta sankalpa, without renouncing the fancies, without adopting the nivritti marga. See, he is talking about the immatured sannyasi and a meditator who cannot concentrate. In Paramatma's mind, there are some people, some immatured sannyasis who always have some targets. They want to build an ashram. They want to take up some kind of activity. They want name and fame. They want to go abroad. Like that, these sannyasis, they are so much fond of achievements, like a gruhastu. So such a sannyasi is immature sannyasi. He doesn't know his priorities. He is having so many desires, like any gruhastu. So he is obsessed with those kind of fancies and desires. So compared to such a sannyasi, a gruhastu who is a karma yogi is superior and he is the right person. That is what Paramatma wants to say. In the same way, a meditator who cannot concentrate, whose mind gets distracted very easily. So such a person is not a real meditator. If you look at a gruhastu, a karma yogi, he is in and out, concentrating on Ishvara. Ishvara and Ishvara alone is his target. He is always linking himself with Ishvara. While taking up action, he is having Ishvara. That is why he chooses the action which is useful to all. He takes up the action which is beneficial to people at large. Because he has got Ishvara in the mind, he is going to offer his action unto Ishvara. If he is doing selfish actions, he will not offer. He cannot offer that action to Ishvara. Now, with an altruistic mind, he takes up the actions, right action. And the right attitude throughout the action, while doing action, he is having Ishvara in the mind. Because for the sake of Ishvara he is doing, he will be doing it with full vigor and concentration and offer it unto Ishvara. So there is always Ishvara, Ishvara, Ishvara alone throughout his life. So he is more concentrated, unlike a meditator who cannot achieve concentration. So a gruhastu who is better than an immature sannyasi, because a sannyasi is unable to renounce his fancies, whereas a gruhastu is able to maintain the balance in spite of the adverse results, in spite of the karma phala which are not in favor. So a gruhastu is much superior to a sannyasi. This is what Paramatma wants to say. So we will proceed to sloka number 3. Arurukshormunir karma karanamutyate yogarudasya tasyeva sabakkaranamutyate. Munehe, for a seeker, arurukshoho, who wants to reach dhyana yogam, who wants to reach the jnanam, who wants to acquire the knowledge. Karma yoga uchyate karanam. So, karma yoga is the means for such an arurukshaha. Arurukshaha means he has not achieved the knowledge, he has not acquired the knowledge, he is about to acquire the knowledge. There are two technical words used by Paramatma in this chapter, arurukshaha, arudaha. Arurukshaha means the one who is yet to acquire the Atma Vidya. So such a person is called arurukshaha. And arudaha. Arudaha means one who is accomplished, one who got the knowledge, one who is already dwelling in the knowledge. So such a person is called arudaha. So two words, may you understand. Arurukshaha, arudaha. Aruruksha is a junior. Arudaha is a veteran who already acquired the knowledge, who understood what is Atma Vidya, who is accomplished. Such a person is called arudaha. So there are two different things prescribed for both of them. That is what Paramatma wants to say. So for arurukshaha, munehe karma karanam uchyate. So for a seeker who is arurukshaha, arurukshaha means who is about to get the knowledge, who is ready to receive the knowledge, for him the karma yoga is prescribed. Karma yoga is the right choice because his mind is not matured at all. So his mind is not matured, therefore he has to cleanse the antakarnas. He has to purify the antakarnas. So by purifying the antakarna, he can achieve that stage. Yogarudasya tasyeva shamakkaranam uchyate. For a person who has accomplished shamaha karanam means nivrutti margam is the means for a yogarudaha. For one pravrutti margam, that is for a novice, for a person who is yet to get the Atma Vidya, Shastra prescribes karma yogam or pravrutti margam, and for the seeker who has already accomplished, Veda prescribes the nivrutti margam. That means the life of renunciation is prescribed. Now the question is, how long should one follow Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is intermediary sadhana by which a person can attain Jnana Yogyata Praptihi. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, a prepared, refined sharp mind he can get only by Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga has got plus point, that is, it can purify the mind, but we should also know the minus point or the limitation of Karma Yoga. What is the limitation of the Karma Yoga? It cannot give you the moksha. It cannot give you the internal freedom. It cannot give you the Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. There are two extreme philosophies. Some people think that Karma Yoga is not giving moksham, so why should I take up the Karma Yoga? I do not take up Karma Yoga because it is not the means for moksham. That's what people think. This is one extreme. The other extreme is Karma Yoga is so enchanting, so nice, so thrilling. I want to remain in that Karma Yoga. It is like, the LKG children, they do not want to get themselves promoted to higher classes. The children in LKG and UKG, they want to remain in the same class because they are so fond of the teachers there. So they don't want the promotion. They do not want to sit in a higher class. So like that, some people, they want to stay with Karma Yoga. They say this is our ultimate aim. I know some people who say that, they want to remain in this seva even in the next janma. I want to get next janma doing the same seva. So that should not be the attitude. This is like, staying in the LKG alone. They don't want to get spiritual upliftment. There are some people who do not want to enter the Karma Yoga. There are yet some other people who do not want to leave Karma Yoga. Both are wrong. Karma Yoga is only a means for Arurukshaha, for a beginner, for a person who wants to acquire knowledge, to get him the qualification. So this one must be clear. And the Shastra says, if you stop with Karma Yoga, the moksham is impossible. Those who enter Jnana Yoga without Karma Yoga, directly they want to take up Jnana Yoga without Karma Yoga, the journey is incomplete. Those who want to take up only Karma Yoga without Jnana Yoga, the journey is impossible. So this one must understand and go according to the scheme that is prescribed. So Yoga Rudaha means the one who has already accomplished, one who understands the knowledge, one who has assimilated the knowledge. For him, the prescription is Samaha Karanam Uchyate. That means Nivrutti Marga is the Karanam. Then Yadahi Nindriyardeshu Nakarma Swanushajjate Sarva Sankalpa Sanyasi Yoga Rudastadothyate. Indeed, when one is interested neither in sense objects nor in pursuits, then that renouncer of all fancies is said to be one who has reached Dhyana Yoga. So, in the previous verse, Paramatma said, one should follow Karma Yoga first, which is Pravrutti Margam. Then prepare the mind. Afterwards, he has to take up the Nivrutti Marga, life of withdrawal, so that one can spend more time in Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga first, then Jnana Yoga. Pravritti Marga first and then Nivrutti Marga. This is the scheme. Now the basic question is, how do I know that the time has come for me to switch over? That I am ready for renouncing the action, ready for Vedantic inquiry, ready for Atma Vicharana. How to know? In the college, at least there is some kind of examination. And how to get pass mark, whether it is 30 or 35, you write the examination and you pass that examination and then you get promoted to the next level. So there is a method. Here in the Vedic journey, in the spiritual journey, there is no such a method to know whether you are ready or not. So Paramatma says, Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi. So one who is a renouncer of all fancies, one who is a renouncer of all fancies, one who is not agitated by the outside things. Usually what happens, whenever I see a thing outside, I meditate on that. I feel I'll get happiness only if I get this. I want. This wanting tambura continues. So, Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi means that tambura Shruti stopped. That tambura Shruti is stopped. Yadahi na indriyardeshu na karmasu tada Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi. So, in karma, he is not, so much attached. Or Indriya Ardeshu. Indriya Ardeshu means there are various Indriya Vishaya Vastus. Like all pictures are the Vishaya Vastus for eyes. All the sounds are Vishaya Vastus for ears. Like that we have got 5 different words which are the Indriya Vishaya Vastus. Indriya Ardeshu means one who is not so much attached with the Indriya Vishaya Vastus. One who can renounce Sarva Sankalpa. So such a person is ready for, such a person is called Yogarudaha. He is the real accomplished one. So you know whether you are a real accomplished one or you are ready for Jnanam or not. You can check yourself whether you are still having the fancies, still that wanting tambura continues. So this is the yardstick. If you look at an Ajnani, in Bhajagovindam, Shankara Bhagavatpada says, Angam Galitam Palitam Mundam Dasana Vihinam Jatam Tundam Vruddho Yati Gruhitva Dandam Tadapina Munchati Asha Pindam. Sadhaka became totally baldy. All hair is gone and all teeth are gone. Dasana Vihinam Jatam Tundam. Then he walks with a stick, unable to walk properly. At that stage also, he is having so many fancies. Tadapina munchati asha pindam. Usually there is a saying, somebody asked, Tata, do you want to marry? Then he replies, who will give me the girl? He will not say, I won't marry. Who will give me the girl? So that is the kind of fancy one entertains. So Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi. Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi means one who renounces all sankalpas, all fancies, such a person is the real sannyasi. So, in the third sloka, Paramatma talks about two different kinds of people. One is Arurukshaha, the other one is Arudaha. For Aruruksha, one who is about to learn the knowledge, for him, the best prescription is the Karma Yogam, the Pravrutti Margam. Arudaha, one who has accomplished, for him, the prescription is Nivrutti Margam. This is the prescription by Paramatma. So with this, Paramatma has completed the first topic called Bahiranga Sadhanani. Bahiranga Sadhanani is the topic which is Karma Yogam for getting the qualification to acquire Atma Vidya. This is the first part of the chapter. So that is completed by Paramatma in the fourth sloka. Then he starts the second topic, Vishesha Sadhanani. For that, he is giving an introduction, which is a very important sloka, which is often quoted by Shankara Bhagavad Pada in his Bhashyam. Uddharedatmanatmanam atmanam avasadhayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanah. One should uplift oneself by oneself. One should not lower oneself. For the self alone is a friend of oneself. The self alone is the enemy of oneself. So, this is an important precaution mentioned by Paramatma. Paramatma says, the sadhaka gets the krupa of Shastra. Shastra is ready to refine him. Shastra keeps the open heart and it widens the hands and welcomes the sadhaka to embrace him. It is ready. Shastra is ready. Guru is also equally ready. Guru is ready to teach him and direct him in the proper direction. Disar Nirdesam he wants to do. But everything is ready, all ambience is there for him to acquire the self-knowledge. But there is one thing which is lacking, one thing which is missing, that is Atma Krupa. That is, the readiness is not there in my mind. I am not prepared. I will say after retirement I will see. After my children are settled, I will see. So like that, they come to Swamiji and tell him, so I will come to you after retirement. I will come to you after I settle my children. I happened to see one person, he said there is a stumbling block in my life. That is why I am not into spirituality. He only said, what is the stumbling block? My daughter didn't get married. So like that, people do postpone, keep postponing the things and see some objection or other to enter into the spiritual life. The spiritual life will no way hinder your day-to-day action. It will, in fact, make you take up your actions more efficiently than before. If you are spiritually oriented, your actions are so perfect. Your planning is so perfect. Your day-to-day activity will be so much channelized. You will wonder the same actions you were doing with worry earlier. Now, you are doing the same actions with happiness and merriment. So this is the sea difference for a spiritual person and an ordinary person. Spirituality will not come in your way for your day-to-day life. Your day-to-day life will be improved. It will enhance your outlook. It will create an ambience, broaden your mind. Uddharet atmanatmanam atmanam avasadayet. Atmaiva eva hi atmanaha bandhuhu atmaeva atmanaha ripuhu. So, you are the friend of yourself. You are the enemy of yourself. If you want to reach the heights, who is the first and foremost responsible in your life? Yourself only. If you want to fall in the journey, you are only responsible. So, Atma eva hi bandhuhu. Atma eva hi atmanaha ripuhu. So, you are the friend of yourself. You are the enemy of yourself. This is a beautiful concept which we will detail in the next class. Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudatyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.